All right, what is going on, guys? It is stage number 11, and this is the breakdown. Teams are already underway, leaving the bivouac at 5 p.m. Pacific time, which is a little over 2 hours ago, and they still got about 2 hours before they even start the stage. So, long day for these guys in the saddle. Not going to be forgiving. You've got today's stage 11. You've got tomorrow, 12, and then Friday night for us here, which is going to be Saturday over in Saudi, is going to be stage number 13. So probably going to be a little bit short and sweet. But let's talk about stage number 11, because I got a feeling that this one, just like yesterday's marathon stage, second half of the marathon stage, I think today's stage is going to change things up. And here's why. 83% dirt track. A lot of dirt, a lot of dust, and some rocks involved in this one. So we'll be seeing how this works out. As you guys know, Daniel Sanders taking an injury on today's stage, or on stage number 10, broken clavicle or fractured clavicle and sternum. So not ideal, but he is going to tough it out and try and finish the Dakar Rally, which, big on him for doing that. Ricky Brabeck stopping to help, getting a little bit of that time back. And now Ricky Brabeck sits atop going into stage number 11 in the overall bike standings. So this is how it breaks down. 6:51 sunrise for them. So they will be watching the sunrise on the bike. 17:53 is going to be the sunset for them. Bisha to Al Henakia, I believe is how it's pronounced. Dirt track, 83%. Sand, 7%. Dunes, 0%. Stone track, 10%. So off-road stage, not a lot of sand going on. So it'll be really interesting to see how these bikes do. Preston Campbell's lead in Rally 2 diminished down to 3 minutes over the last stage. So this stage may favor him a little bit better, especially being a little bit further back. It's going to take some of the pressure off of the navigation. I'm sure by now he's getting a little bit tired, although the shots I've seen, he looks pretty fresh. So we'll see how that works. Okay, that is the stage composition. What it looks like is a 328-kilometer transfer. So they're going to drive 300 or ride 328 kilometers before they even take a green flag. They will take a green flag, and it will be a 346-kilometer stage length. And when you're thinking about kilometers, 300 kilometers, it's 62 miles per 100 kilometers. So you're looking at about 180 to 200 mile day racing. But you're also looking at 180 to 200 miles just to get to the start line. And then when you finish that, you're looking at another 120 miles just to get back to the camp or the bivouac. So it is a long day in the saddle. We're going to do some math, and I want to figure out, based on the first bike leaving the start line and the first bike getting to the finish or back to the bivouac, that time allotted, I want to know what that is across the days that we have gone and what it will look like at the end of the Dakar Rally. So interesting to see on that one. Okay, let's continue on down. Once again, it looks like the vehicles are going to have a pit stop right around kilometer 190 to 191. And the stage breaks down as follows. So once they complete their liaison of 328 kilometers to get to the start, they will take on fuel. That is bikes, cars, and the helicopters, of course. Once there, they will take their start and work all the way down to kilometer 206. Kilometer 206 will be the second neutralization, where they will take on fuel. And then once again, when they get to kilometer 346. So the stage is pretty straightforward. It looks like it's a pretty direct route. They don't do a lot of zigzagging. They are focusing their way to get to the bivouac. So we'll see how that one goes. Okay, let's take a look really quick before we jump over to the stage breakdown and the briefing from the organization. 4 o'clock start time for the bikes, 6:05 start time in the morning for the vehicles. That is for them to leave the bivouac. So the vehicles just left about 20 minutes ago. The first bike will be leaving the start line at 8:15 a.m., making it 9:15 p.m. here on the West Coast. And then the first vehicle scheduled to take the start at 10:20 a.m. local time, 11:20 p.m. here on the West Coast. Now, interesting enough, the vehicles do have some separation in time. They will likely catch some of the back markers in the bike category, but they are on the same route today. So they are going to have those bike tracks to follow, which could lead to some interesting racing in the podiums for the ultimate class, the SSV category, and then, of course, the overall for that, which is basically the ultimate class. I mean, those guys they're fast. So we'll see how that one breaks down. Okay, let's take a look. First bike is supposed to leave, we know, take the start at 8:15 a.m. They're expecting the first bike back in the bivouac at 2:43 p.m. So still a very fast stage, not a long day there. First vehicle is expected to be back at 4:24 in the afternoon, just 2 hours later. So very, very fast racing for these guys today. Okay, let's change it up and let's take a look at the stage briefing. So this is the briefing that riders and participants are given in the morning or the evening after the stage at the riders meeting. So you'll have your general information about the stage, and then, of course, they'll have the breakdowns, vigilance points, reminders, and stuff like that. So this is really cool to get an inside look. This is what they would be talking about if you were there listening in and having and taking part in the stage briefing. Graphic is on the screen. Kilometer DSS, so the start of the stage to kilometer 35. Very fast tracks. Numerous tracks, options make navigation tricky. So not going to be a walk in the park for the guys first out. Vegetation present and heavy dust in this first section. Vegetation and heavy dust are not a good thing if you're not prepared for it. If you catch up to somebody and you end up stepping out to make that pass, you could be greeted by something that you don't want to hit at speed, especially with it being fast. So hopefully we'll get some safe and no issues there in the first 35 kilometers. Kilometer 35 to 43, rockier and more winding tracks, slowing the pace. So there begins the rock sections that we were talking about from the stage makeup or the stage composition. Kilometer 43 to 105, very fast tracks again with a few wadi crossings. Vegetation is denser. Watch out for cap headings. So thinking maybe the tracks in there, people getting lost, veering, trying to avoid certain things and getting off of track. So that may be an interesting point. That's already 2 points towards it's going to be a tricky navigation, favoring some of the guys that are starting a little bit further back. In this case, the stage winner, I believe, is Tasha Shurena. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's been a long day. Correct me down in the comments, but going to be leading out. So this could be an interesting one. So Shurena, Brabeck, and then Benavides, if I remember the top three. And then you have kilometer 105 to 150, narrow track alternating between sand and rocks, then descending onto a fast plateau with significant fesh, very winding, slower sections with many tracks. Watch cap headings. There it is again, a third time that they're saying watch your cap, watch your compass. Fesh for the uninitiated and those playing the home game is basically baby powder in dirt form. Not fun, especially not on a bike. All right, let's jump down to the next one. So that was kilometer 105 to 150, kilometer 150 to 190. The track becomes rockier in places, then improves towards the end of the section with more sand up to the liaison or the transfer. So very interesting. And now that is from kilometer 150 to 190. That is where the vehicles are going to pit at kilometer 190 to 191. So there's a short transfer section that they have to do there. Kilometer 190 to 206, sandy and fast track across a plateau up to the neutralization. Navigation is not straightforward. Again, not saying cap headings, but there's another warning again about navigation not being easy. The front runners may have a bit of a handful trying to navigate today's stage, especially opening, of course. All right, kilometer 206 to 282, the track remains very fast with a section across a chut. Heading cap tracking is essential. A few undulations and heavy dust. So a little bit of whoops, some dust, tricky navigation, and then crossing a shot section. So this should be interesting for that one. Let's see here. And then from 282 to arrive selective section, the finish of the stage, fast-paced tracks continue all the way to the finish with very few rocky sections. So basically saying, okay, you made it this far. Let's get you to the finish line. All right, let's jump over to the vigilance points really quick. Vigilance points is where the organization is straight up saying, watch out right here. This could be an issue. Kilometer 85.47, 30-centimeter concrete marker along the track. DZ 30 kilometers per hour. So they have a 30 kilometer per hour speed zone in this section, heavy dust in the area. So to me, it sounds like they're warning people, dust, watch out for the concrete. It could hurt. Kilometer 180.68. Do not take the main track. Track is cut off. Mandatory right. So it sounds like it must be a really good looking road there. And then all of a sudden, there's not a really good looking road. So that could be very dangerous, obviously, especially for the bikes, vehicles, all of the above. Kilometer 265 to 265.24. WPS, waypoint safety. That is track crossing between small embankments. So sounds like if you hit those at speed and you're a little bit off, that might hurt. So not too bad for today's stage. It's going to be long, fast, and I think that it will be, with as much as they're leaning on this tricky navigation, something tells me it's going to be tough for the front runners. We might see some of the back of the pack catch up. I'm thinking bikes right now. I'm thinking Preston Campbell's in a pretty sweet spot. So we'll see how the stage shakes out. If you haven't already and you want to know about tomorrow's results, make sure you subscribe, hit that bell notification so you know that the video has been posted. We're going to see you guys in the morning. Going to try and do the video a little bit earlier. We've got some work stuff going on, so I won't be able to hang out as long waiting for stuff to update. So we'll see you guys in the morning. Hope you guys are enjoying, and I don't know. What do you guys think? You guys with me? You think it's going to be a shakeup once again, stage 11? Comments below. If you're listening on the podcast side of things, you can comment on Spotify or head on over to Instagram. We're happy to post your DM. All right. Anyway, we'll see you guys.